The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
The polls were wrong. The media was wrong. It's official. President-elect Donald Trump will take over come January 2017. Hillary Clinton falling short on her second bid for the White House. So much to unpack. We are joined on a very special election coverage live here on Perspectives. Stay with us. We're coming right back in a second.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective, which shines a light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Let 'em know. And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. We are live here on BronxNet Television as we bring you the updates from last night's historic and in many ways stunning presidential election. I don't think anybody actually predicted what the outcome of yesterday would actually be in terms of when we talk about the distance between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. The final numbers, Donald Trump as of right now, 283 electoral votes. And then you have Hillary Clinton, 219. Actually, that's the numbers have increased since that time. I know what it says right there, but we do have the latest numbers that we went on just a little while earlier. And that's a huge gap. And a lot of people on the morning after asking the question, what happened? What went right for Donald Trump? And then what went wrong for Hillary Clinton? We're joined by a very esteemed political panel who's here to break down all of last night's elections results and where we go from here. We've got Roy Paul, who's a political analyst, joining us as well. We've got also Joyce Johnson, political analyst, who's also run for political office. Both of them have actually run political office here in New York. Mark Myritz, a political analyst. He's also a professor at SUNY Maritime. And then we've also got J.C. Polanco, our BronxNet political analyst, who also serves as professor at Borough of Manhattan Community College in Manhattan. And you've seen him on several TV shows over the last few hours and a few days. And all of you, thank you so much for joining us and sharing here. As we look back on this very special night, and when I say it's a special night, because it's going to be a night that goes down in history. And I'll start moving with Roy first. And Roy, I don't think anybody actually anticipated the margin. People had given Donald Trump a possibility to say, listen, he could pull this off, but not by the margin of victory that we're seeing, correct?
Absolutely. I think this election is also an indictment on the media as well, because they played a large role in shaping the narrative of this election, especially around the polling that was done around the country. And the pollsters simply got it wrong. Even Nate Silver got it wrong. And I was watching last night as he was trying to backtrack what he was saying and giving Hillary Clinton 70% margin of victory, and then he had to flip it and gave Donald Trump a 70-something% margin of victory. But it tells you something about the American people, and that is you really can't second guess what they're going to do. They're going to show up on Election Day, and that is what ultimately matters.
I mean, all of us had various assignments last night when it comes to watching last night's elections. Joyce, you were at the Clinton campaign headquarters downtown last night, and at some juncture you got up and left, huh?
I did. At first I said it was about 11. It was actually about, as I was thinking back, about 10:30. It was going south, but more than that, the gloom and despair in the room, because most of us thought it would be over much sooner. Going to Roy's Paul about the polls and the predictions and all of that. And what in the end it turned out to be, no one estimated the real numbers regarding the white populist vote. American public have never voted to their fullest strength. but white America did last night. And for those who Donald Trump appealed to bring back America, make it great again, those are words that I'm very familiar with from back in the civil rights days and what that meant. They came out in numbers surpassing what we did for Barack Obama in 2008. No one predicted that kind of turnout, and the result is a consequence of that.
Not only is JC a political analyst, he's also the former commissioner of Board of Elections here in the borough of the Bronx and New York City. We talk about this here. When we look at the vote, and you look at what Joyce talked about, who came out and who didn't come out?
Well, that's a very good question. I know New York City had very high turnout. Throughout the city, I know that a lot of these voting machines were filled with paper ballots and they had to be replaced with some new bins. So we had a lot of excitement throughout Manhattan, especially. A lot of people came out to vote. The lines were very long in some places because of the excitement. And now what's interesting is that New York City voted overwhelmingly against Donald Trump and for Hillary Clinton. So this is going to be an election result where it's going to be very sectionalized. We're going to see differences in cities versus suburban, rural votes. Going to be very different how the country voted. The country is very divided right now. And I think that you're going to see a high turnout for Hillary in most of the cities. And when I say high turnout, I mean extremely high turnout. And throughout the rest of America. It's interesting to see how they voted. Now, to what we just heard, there was a time when I was very angry at the Trump voter. It's something I never thought would happen. I wasn't impressed with the candidate. I thought he lacked detail. I was part of the Never Trump movement, and your viewers know that. But, yesterday, it's impossible to just paint Trump's victory as a victory for some racists in the rural areas. I think he was able to unify a lot of people that I had never thought would unify. I mean, 29% of the Latinos came out and supported Donald Trump. You're looking at white college-educated males and white non-educated males. You're looking at women that have college degrees and those that don't. All came out for Donald Trump, and I think he did something incredible. We're going to study this for a very long time. I know I was totally off. I didn't read the electorate correctly. As Roy mentioned, I was reading those polls all year long, and every single one of them showed that Hillary was going to win big. Not one major newspaper came out in favor of Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, USA Today never endorses, actually just told everyone, please don't vote for this guy. So I don't know how is it that the media, academia, pollsters, all the political thinkers of our time got this one completely wrong.
Yeah, Mark, let me go here with Mark, because we haven't brought him in yet. Where did Hillary Clinton go wrong? Because obviously, as we're talking right now, just a little while ago, she just gave her concession speech, and many insiders say she was just devastated and blown away, and it took a while for her to really be able to recover and be able to even come in front of the cameras and be able to say anything. But where did the Clinton campaign
Well,
go wrong?
first of all, this is an extraordinary election. It's reminiscent of the election in 1948 between Truman and Dewey. Everybody went to bed thinking Truman was defeated and Dewey won, and in the morning, Truman holds up. It's a famous picture. The papers all wrote, Dewey defeats Truman. It was ridiculous. Truman won the election. So this is an earth-shaking election. I think some of the factors would be the following. First of all, JC talks about the media. The media is completely out of touch with the people, it seems to me. The coverage is completely partisan. They talk to themselves, they don't talk to the people, and they don't communicate. So they're totally wrong. And I don't want to mention any of the other networks, but they're all guilty of this. They don't communicate. And I would also add that the Comey business with the emails, even though he came out on Sunday and said, I didn't find anything, that seed was planted in people's minds. And when they went to the polls, and maybe at the first time, when whatever occurred in July, and Comey said, no respectable reasonable prosecutor would do anything, that was one thing. But the seed was planted, and people were thinking about it, and they were already thinking about it, so when they went to the ballot, thinking, well, I'm going to vote for Clinton. No, wait a minute. I have a hesitation. And that was a problem. So I think that also overconfidence in the Democratic Party, overconfidence, misreading the people, misunderstanding the people. And by the way, I'm not so sure that the demographics that we're speaking about today, I think this was a groundswell. Finally, the Electoral College. You have to pay attention to the Electoral College. The cities might be important, but it's the battleground states and who votes in the battleground states that defines the election, and that's how he won.
And the one thing that happened was, for sure, the Trump administration said, follow us, we're going to be able to come through on the
Yeah.
Rust Belt. A lot of people looked at the Rust Belt and
Exactly
said, that's
right.
not going to happen. You're not
Yeah.
going to come through on
Yeah.
the Rust Belt. And looking the morning after, what they said.
Well, he won't believe, but you know what? This was, and let's just not segment the Clinton loss. Look at the entire election. Donald Trump beat some of the most formidable and powerful Republicans' establishment. So he beat, in effect, between Republicans and the Democratic Party, he beat the establishment. This was a total rejection of the American political establishment. He beat 16 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And so we've got to look at that, and the partisanship, not doing the work of government in the last 8 years because they wanted to obstruct Obama, all of that fueled the establishment only protects itself, self-interest, self-money, they're getting and we're not getting.
JC disagrees.
You know, I think we have to remember one thing, and you got to look back at the BronxNet links, if you will, during the Republican primary. Donald Trump consistently scored about 30% of the vote in every one of these primaries. And that had a lot to do with the fact that he excited part of my party with his rhetoric and his 100% name identification. So yes, he won against 16 other qualified candidates, but he won in a very different, it's not as if he won the majority of the vote.
Yep.
He won consistently a minority of the vote until he got enough share of the minority vote for him to win the nomination. What I do think happened yesterday, and this is where I don't want Democrats to wash their hands and play the Pontius Pilate role. Look, you guys nominated someone under FBI investigation. This lady had deleted 33,000 emails. Now, I don't want, this is not a, I'm never Trump, so let me finish. This lady deleted 33,000 emails after getting a congressional subpoena, destroys 13 Blackberries with hammers, and you guys still nominated this woman. Shame on you. This is not Director Comey's fault. This is nobody's fault other than the Democratic Party. And I know that people like to say, oh, this was a rejection of the political establishment as it is. Hey, Reince Priebus, our RNC chairman, is still in. I think this was a total rejection of Hillary Clinton. This rejection, I mean, Hillary Clinton, this was Hillary's to lose. And she lost it because Americans woke up and said, I don't know, and not racist Americans, by the way. I know we like to look at the guys that got excited with the language. I'm talking about rational Americans, good, well-intentioned people said, I cannot vote for this woman. She's a liar. She's a crook. I can't. And that's what happened. Shame on Democrats for supporting her.
Well, you know
Well,
what?
two
I've got to
things.
take exception.
Let me give Roy again.
Well, you know, I'm sick and tired of two things. One is minimizing the success that Donald Trump had in the primaries. You got to give him credit for it, whether it was the consistent 30% or not. If the other 16 people, half of them got out of the race, Donald Trump would not be the nominee. Elections happen the way that they happen, and sometimes people have the right to get into races. Joyce and I know a little thing about losing, but people have the right to get into a race, and if there are too many people who are splitting a particular vote, then yeah, the person who has a consistent minority sometimes win. And the same thing on the Republican side. People are saying, well, Jill Stein, blah, she would have won if it wasn't for Jill. Look, people have a right to be in a race,
That's
and
right.
you lose no matter who else is in the race. If you win, then you win no matter who else is in the race. It goes both ways. And to CJ's point, look, you have to remember. JC, I'm sorry. I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm traumatized by the election. But you have to remember something, and that is, you can't browbeat people into voting for someone just because of the Republican or the Democratic nominee.
right.
If people don't like Hillary Clinton, there's a choice, and they're allowed to have that choice.
Well, let me bring this
I just
question up
wanna-
here.
May
Yeah.
I add just one very quick point?
Yeah.
Rasmussen put out a tweet today. I thought it was very clever. He says that Donald Trump is really a third-party candidate running against the Democratic Party establishment
Right.
and the Republican Party
I
establishment.
believe that, yep.
So you have to follow
Yep.
the point
Yep.
that he is an iconoclast. He's a smasher of conventions. He came in, knocked out 16 candidates, and then ran against Hillary Clinton, the whole Democratic Party, with all the posters behind her, and he said, I'm going to win. And guess what? He did. So he is some kind of a factor in American politics we're going to be studying, but I like Rasmussen's point. He smashed the establishment. He attacked the establishment. The people out there, the so-called deplorables, who were called deplorable, there are people out there who are very unhappy, and I think they're unhappy in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party about the way things were going. And
JC,
that's where the reaction is with Trump. That's
JC
it.
brought this thing about it was Hillary Clinton's race to pretty much
Yes,
lose. And
yes.
now the question on the let's say the Wednesday afternoon quarterbacking, was it a horrible move not to make Bernie Sanders the vice presidential candidate and bring those votes into play. Because if you have Bernie Sanders and his supporters, because there's some people who did not vote for Hillary Clinton at all, you add those numbers in there, are we making any difference, and could the election have been flipped?
I think it's hindsight is 2020, and you may be right. I mean, I think to
he's
be honest,
absolutely right.
To be honest, all of us thought about that, weighing. And I think there's too much weighing at the top around things that are maybe not as pragmatic. Maybe perhaps Bernie might not have been as good a number two person. Maybe there was likability and all of that. And so I'm not going to say that that's not a fair point. Absolutely not going to say it. But on JC's point about Hillary, who we nominated under this, look at the other side, who Donald Trump disgraced at least 70% of the populace, talked about misogyny, sexism, racism, homophobia, everything you can think of. He was not a stellar candidate, But so each had tremendous negatives, tremendous. But we were more easily accepted. We heard as we were coming over a gentleman talking about, yes, but he did those things and admitted to it. But at least he admitted that he was wrong regarding sexual assault. Now he didn't say he was sexual assault. He just said, boys being boys, sexual assault. But we were okay with all of that. We were okay with the sexist remarks. We were okay because that is, so to your point, the piece about sexism is bigger than that. It's misogyny, it's racism, it's, nativism, it's naturalism, it is we the people, it is white America. This is what we used to be and we will always be.
And there's commercialism, and I got to go take a commercial right quick. Hold on, we'll be right back. I got to take a quick break. We'll be back with our group right after this. Stay with us right here on this very special live edition of Perspectives.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
Let's do those pearly whites, man. Yeah. Boys, check it. Yeah.
Ooh, cute. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up? What's happening? How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir.
See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
And we are back here on Perspectives, this live edition of Perspectives. We're discussing the ramifications of yesterday's election. President-elect Donald Trump, just a little while ago, Hillary Clinton giving her concession speech in downtown New York. Joyce Johnson, our political analyst, was at the Clinton headquarters. Give us a little bit of the mood there. What time, because you said at 10:30, you were
polls close at 9 o'clock, 9:30, the E starts to come in a little bit. 10 o'clock, you're getting a good sense of, the spread, the widening and whatever. The mood necessarily, I'm trying to trying to equate it to another. Maybe it was Al Gore 2000, when things weren't shaping up the way we wanted it to be. And this is not our first rodeo, and so we've done this. And so it is the roller coaster, ups and downs. And when the state comes in that you hoped would, great. Pennsylvania was strung out far too long, which starts to say something is not happening the way it should. And so that's election night. That was election night last night. The election morning, the same.
Right.
You know, one of the things I love about my party, the Democratic Party, is that we have some of the most emotional people ever.
Gosh.
You know, Democrats lose, everyone's weeping, they're crying, they're hugging each other. Republicans lose, they're trying to find Uber to get back home, you know? But that really encapsulates, I think, why we are so wonderful.
We feel the people. Yes.
Well, well, you know what? If you do feel the people, if the Democrats do feel the people, I think it's important that we have a serious discussion, honestly. And I mean, I'm talking about put your little biases aside, and JC's a Republican. Guys, we have to have a discussion.
No, I like you.
Oh, thank you. We have to have a discussion on illegal immigration. We have to have a real discussion and not be afraid of having it. Hey, listen, the country absolutely rejected amnesty. They absolutely rejected DACA. They absolutely rejected DAPA, all of the president's programs regarding how to deal with the 11 million people, as a matter of fact, that are here undocumented. I have to tell you this. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump comes on to the national stage as a candidate for the presidency, attacking Mexicans and painting a picture of undocumented immigrants. That wasn't necessarily the case. And from that moment on, to Roy's point, he continued to get 33% of the vote in every single primary, in every single poll before the first primary. So what are Democrats going to do, and what is the country going to do? Are they going to continue trying to shove down the throats of the American people who have rejected sanctuary cities, amnesty, the idea that you can illegalize people that are here undocumented and not give respect to the people that have been waiting online? Look, the United States is clear. They don't want it. The 26 states that sued President Obama because of DACA said we don't want to spend billions of dollars on people that are here illegally. Stop it. So now the Democratic Party has to say either we're going to lose this election, the following 4 years we're going to lose another one, and the following 4, if we continue shoving this down America's throat. They don't want it. We have to have a serious discussion about it, and that includes us Latinos.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the difference between the Irish wave and the Italian wave of Americans? Not
It's
Americans.
Totally different era. Totally different
not
time.
Americans.
Totally different time. Totally different time.
What's the time?
Yeah, it's a different era
We could say
altogether.
the same. We could say the same thing. Tell me what the
I'll tell
difference
you right
is.
now. Look, in 1986,
Tell
when
me what the
President
difference
Reagan,
is.
when President Reagan signs amnesty, there were 3 million people here that were undocumented. Okay. Now, since then, now we have 11 million, and the borders are not secured. Listen, this guy won the election. I mean, enough with the debate. This guy won, and he won really talking about immigration, building a wall, sending people back. He even went on there and said Operation Wetback was a great idea, and people applauded. This is serious business.
Was the Trump card immigration, or was the Trump card economy? Because you got a lot more people who are actually concerned about.
It's tied. Darren, it's tied. He said, look, because of these illegal immigrants and because of Mexico, you're losing all your jobs in your factories. So when you
There are no factories. Manufacturing has been gone. It's overseas in the industry supported by Trump.
You can't put it on a bumper sticker, and he obviously won. So there goes that.
Mark.
I'm happy I'm sitting in between it.
No, I like it. I like it, but I don't. I'm not agreeing.
We're
just fired up. I love it.
Point here that I think everybody will agree with, and that is that, and as you said, and I think it's true, that he won. Okay, so now the question is, what are the policies that are going to be advanced in the new administration? I would put forward the thought that I think that some of the statements made and policies made and suggested as a candidate will not be put forward.
Exactly.
Because
such
as building the wall, okay, the ban on Muslims and other things like that. I don't believe, and again, I'm not a prophet, but I think this. I think that Trump, as a pragmatist, giving him the credit in terms of how he got to this point, which is pretty darn amazing, can see the reality that he won the presidency on some points that he made, but now, as he said, he wants partnership and not conflict. A president that's constantly in conflict is not going to be a successful president. A successful president is someone who can put forward ideas, solve problems, but be able to do that in consensus, compromise. That's the thing that we've been missing in this country. I heard a constitutional scholar, historical scholar said, we made compromise the beginning of our republic. We don't compromise anymore. And I think that as a businessman, negotiator, I'm hopeful that some of the things that he's been saying will be moderated going forward as a practical matter. So you can't hang your hat completely on every statement that he made and believe that he's going to implement it as that is. And by the way, last point, even if he has a Republican Senate and a Republican House, he still is not going to be able to do that because those people in the House and the Senate want to get reelected. I know you're all the politicians here will validate what I'm saying. So there is a check on what you propose and what you suppose with the president because elections are coming up.
I disagree. I think even with the Republican Senate and Congress, he's going to still try. But I do think that this is the first time we have a Republican president who did it on his own terms. And by the way, never actually gave specifics on any policy. And his surrogates never gave specifics on policies. Giuliani, Christie, Kellyanne Conway, his campaign manager, there was no specifics on any policy. And further to that point, he never released his tax returns. Are we serious? What the heck did we do as a country? We don't even know what he's invested in overseas, Russia, you name it. This is absurd. It's absurd.
Well, you know what? To that point, the only thing he was detailed about was what he was going to do about illegal immigrants, what he was going to do about the refugees from Syria, and what he wanted to do with Muslims.
All the
so when you look at
flashpoints.
when you look at the details, the devil's in the details. Look at what he said, and I think it's important. No, we have to really have a gut check. And go ahead.
All right, let me switch.
Do you think he's going to build a wall?
There were no
I think you might not get a wall. I think you're going to get something like a wall.
Oh, that's correct.
No, you're going to get something. But wait,
what does that
something
mean?
interesting.
The gate in Blazing Saddles, where you're in the desert, and there's a gate and people go around.
First of all,
not a wall, something like a wall.
First of all, check this out. He's
going to have sheetrock.
He has a Republican House and a Republican Senate. And as someone who thought we were going to lose the Senate, each one of those senators that came back owe that election to Donald Trump. And each one of these congressmen owe their elections to Donald Trump. So to your point about getting reelected, if they go against Donald Trump's wishes, I bet you that'll risk their reelection, not standing on principle of some kind. He's going to push some kind of wall. And I think that see, you talk about negotiations. Negotiations involve one party wanting one thing and another one in the other. But who do you negotiate when you're the boss and you're in charge and you got everyone else elected?
Right, and here's a question, because now you didn't just, the major key is the margin of victory. And so when you stand there and talk about America having this radical change and America wants to see change, some people have said that he has now been, empowered to make these sweeping radical changes that you brought forward in your campaign. And by way of these results, you almost have been given license to go ahead and do that.
I believe this, on Roy's point, is very astute. He's talking about all the policies, but this election is not about policies. It has nothing to do with it. It's just about the personalities and whether you like Trump or like Clinton. Therefore, wait a minute. Therefore, there's the candidate getting into office, saying what he said, and now's the time for policy. Now is the litmus test when the president's in office with the Congress, because they want to get reelected too.
And don't tell me all the non-educated people who came out to vote care about policy.
If your viewers are watching this, they think that
they are watching.
No, if your viewers are right now, they're saying that what did Donald Trump? He just went boogie 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 boogie, and they voted for him.
Something like
the
that.
guy obviously said, "I'm getting rid of NAFTA." No, I'm getting rid of NAFTA. I don't want Muslims here. I want to stop the Syrian refugees. He was clear. Now all of a sudden, Mark's going to say, "What? He didn't say anything. Nothing's going to happen."
It's nothing to do with policy.
Sure,
all right,
he promised some things. You'll see what's going to happen.
Let me move the change.
The American public is going to be the most guilty lover when he can't deliver on
I gotta move the chains.
I
gotta move the chains. Let me ask about personalities now. Now that we're talking about transition, we know that President-elect Donald Trump is President-elect. Talk about personalities. Who's going to be a part of this transition team? We hear some names, and we brought up some names right here. Some people that we thought were totally off the grid have the possibility of resurfacing. People thought Chris Christie was off the grid.
I see
but the
Rudy
reality
Giuliani
is
is Attorney General.
Rudy Giuliani's a possibility. Heck, we're talking about Omarosa.
Omarosa. Yesterday when she was doing the interview, she was talking about planning her wedding. But I think she's probably changed her mind this morning. I think you're absolutely right.
What other names are we possibly hearing?
Can I make one point? There's a distinction between who runs the transition and whose names are put forward because of the supporters of Donald Trump. So he is actually, if it's his same imprimatur, He's going to run the transition, okay? He's
Mm,
going to have a
right,
number
that's
of
exactly
personalities there.
Exactly
He's
right.
putting the names there because those are the people that are affiliated with this success. That doesn't mean they're going to have the ultimate impact. From what I heard about him, he does listen to his advisors, but then ultimately he makes his own decisions.
A
And
millisecond.
that's been what has been his trademark. It is Donald Trump, and that's how he got to be president. If you want to take a laboratory and figure out how it was done, I think we still have to do some more study and understand it a little bit better, but it is a phenomenon, isn't it? We can't just dissect it and say, well, it was economics or it was, you know, it was trade.
Oh,
and
that's
we
very
can
true.
say
It's
that.
multi-
But it's
No, I
really
think-
something
but
about him, and it's about him. So the transition is about him.
I think for the first time in my lifetime, I think maybe, you know, we have a situation where media has to go back and take a look at what they
Yes,
do.
they do.
Absolutely.
Pollsters
Absolutely.
have to go back and take a look at what they do
Absolutely.
and really find out, because there's only maybe 1 or 2 polls that had this on the head. And the people who actually had this margin of victory, when you look at the margin of victory, people said Donald Trump could possibly win. But when you wake up in the morning and find 283 to 219,
Right.
that's something totally, totally different. I got to take a quick break. We'll be back more on this very special live edition of Perspectives, talking about the morning after right here.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Being prepared is a part of who you are. But it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands? My son has lots of dolls.
But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
And we are back here on this live edition of Perspectives. Darren Hybe here with you. We are talking the morning after the election, President-elect Donald Trump, and now what is left for Hillary Clinton to do, given the fact of yesterday's startling results. And as we are here with our political team, we've been sharing a little bit with our analysts, and I do want to have the opportunity, first and foremost, to go back to our viewers, because before this even occurred, we just wanted to get the before and the after effect. And so our crews actually went out in the streets to really think about what you thought about this whole political process and the upcoming election. Now, keep in mind, some of this was right before the election results even happened. So just take a listen to what some people had to say.
I honestly think that at this point in time, it will get worse before it gets better, because people are changing tax brackets and playing with numbers and playing with pay rates, and people aren't understanding that there's a certain minimum that the average adult needs to make just to get by in a place like this. It's New York City.
I think we'll see a better future, us black people and us white people, Spanish also, since we all in the North America. It's hard to believe what Barack Obama promised us and didn't accomplish his mission, that's the difference that we see nowadays. And I think Hillary or Trump, if they win, the future that I see is better economic things happening, better wealth care of us, better future if we study.
With Trump, I think it would get worse. With Hillary, I'm unsure. She has a lot of plans, but with a lot of elections, people have a lot of plans, and not everything goes through. So I'm hoping that she's actually able to go through with her plans if she wins. And I just hope Trump doesn't win, basically.
And there you see just some of the thoughts that people had coming from across the borough. And I want to talk a little bit about this here because there's a very good chance when all the numbers come in, because we're still talking and the situation is still fluid. We know what the results are, but we haven't got all the final numbers in. There's a very good chance that Hillary Clinton could have won in the area of the popular vote and still lost via the Electoral College. We saw this happen before with Al Gore
in 2000,
and losing to George
And in
W. Bush.
1800, Jefferson versus Burr, and in 1824, when Andrew Jackson got the popular vote and then lost it because John Quincy Adams made a deal with the House of Representatives. I mean, that was he got the electoral vote. He lost the he didn't get a majority. He won the popular vote. They called that corrupt bargain. That was, again, the similar with Bush versus Gore. There have been a couple of times. But the bottom line is the Electoral College counts, and the popular vote across the board does not count. The popular vote in each state is the way in which, except for a little change in Maine and Nebraska, determines the electoral vote. And that's how it works. And that's the Founding Fathers system. It's a flawed system, but it's our system.
Yeah, and the question is, because now people are getting up in the morning saying, maybe we need to revisit this. Because when you look at what happened with Al Gore recently, and then you look at what happens right now with the possibility, once again, we want to say, we don't have the final popular vote, but it's very possible that she could win the popular vote. What's your thought?
I think that the Electoral College was a genius system devised by the founders. It was done for several reasons. One, they really didn't understand how the president was going to be. They knew the title. They didn't know what the personality would be or how much power that person was actually going to take that wasn't given to them. So they feared that the person that was running for president would only visit the large states, or maybe the large cities.
Yeah,
and you could go to New York City, Miami, Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas, and win the presidency of the United States. And I think that the founders knew that could happen. They could go to New York, Virginia, Massachusetts. And what about the other colonies, the other former colonies? So I think that was genius to make the person running for office care about all of the issues of everyone and do everything they could to go visit these states. And then I think it's also important to note that another thing behind the Electoral College that's some would consider a little sinister is the idea that a lot of the founders didn't trust the masses to make this kind of decision. And they thought that if we have one barrier of defense to protect the country from itself and let them make the final decision based on, and by the way, the Constitution is silent, the federal Constitution that is silent as to requiring the electors to vote as the population wished. States, some states have taken upon themselves to make it even as far as illegal for an elector not to vote as the population wished. So it's important that your viewers do realize that the federal Constitution is silent, and it's because the founders didn't really trust the public. As a matter of fact, Alexander Hamilton said, and I'm paraphrasing, when he speaks to Thomas Jefferson about the mass, he says, your people are beasts, considering that you can't really trust everyone to make this type of decision. We need to have the elites to make it. So there's a combination of things there. It would be great, I think, that if a Mickey Mouse did get elected, Americans know that there's an electoral college that's going to meet in a few weeks and is going to vote against Mickey Mouse, even if Mickey Mouse got
I'd like to add 2 points to that on the Electoral College.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get to it.
Sure.
Let me come from this perspective here. You look at it from the Democratic side of the view. You wake up in the morning, you got pounced, you got trounced, you really got beat down. What do Democrats do to recover from this kind of pounding and shellacking?
Well, first I have to say I'm so happy they gave that history lesson. I don't have to go back to school. It's good.
It was good, and for our viewers as well.
Absolutely, and I actually think the electoral process is something that should happen locally, because I know Joyce and I have ran in gerrymandered districts where you have small pockets in white communities that are trounced by minority communities.
Yeah.
But I would also say that the Democrats really have to worry about getting out the vote in those urban areas. Hillary Clinton, we know, did not perform as well as President Obama in some of the key hotbeds in terms of urban America. And look at why. Why didn't those African Americans in Detroit come out for Hillary Clinton the way they did for Barack Obama? And when you get the answer to that, you begin to understand how we can sort of build up. Because the only way she's going to do it, or any Democratic president in the future, is to build up the numbers in the urban areas.
Spent a lot of time in North Carolina. We know, and Bronx Assemblyman Michael Blake did a lot of time on the campaign trail in
Charlotte,
North Carolina,
Miami,
Miami,
Dade, Broward County.
And yet and still, when we look at these numbers, it didn't really go too well.
Well, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine was in Broward County, and you know, when things go well, you know, everything works on the ground. When it doesn't, then you start to look. And he said to me, this operation, that this is the way they've been carrying on in Broward County for every election, it is shabby. Because he was saying that, you know, the numbers of people on the poll, the rolls, the number of people who were dead, they were door knocking on deadwood. And so the local apparatus that the Democratic Party must necessarily, you know, respond to and rely on is not as strong as it should be. And in addition to that, because we talked about this, I think the last time I was on, the number, and I'll just go African American, because since we are a tremendous part of the population in southern states for all the reasons, that's our heritage, our history, when there were more slaves than there were whites, you know, and so they made the population. The number of African Americans, 600, we talked about Georgia, 615,000 who are eligible to vote and unregistered to vote, not counting those registered and don't. And North Carolina, it was something like, you remember from the last time we talked about, 353,000 eligible to vote but not registered to vote. So, and these are folks who would arguably be in the pocket of the Democrats, not pocket.
Joyce.
Can
I say
so we aren't doing the groundwork of voter registration and engagement.
Education. Let me get Mark JC.
I just want to add 2 points about it, and certainly to just tag on to what JC said. First of all, it's true that the founders feared the masses and didn't want the masses to rise up, okay? And then even originally had the electors elected by the state legislatures. But 2 other factors. Number 1, the Electoral College promotes the power of the big population states. That's very, very important. And that's federalism, so the states still have power. That's a very important point. And the other part is the Electoral College fosters the 2-party system. Let's just look at Ross Perot, when he got 19% of the popular vote and 0 electoral votes. As a practical matter, with winner takes all, in all the states except Maine and Nebraska, you can only have 2 parties. If you make it a popular vote across the board, you have a totally different political system, part of which JC alluded to, but also you start having coalitions and a whole different system. So I think the Electoral College has some important factors, shouldn't be thrown out, but maybe should be looked at to try to reform it.
JC.
You know, as far as the African American vote and how different it was this time, you know, it reminds me of when I teach military history in my classes regarding some of these revolutionary wars and how when one general gets fired and they bring another general in, that battle isn't as successful. It makes me think that loyalty is non-transferable. And you have a group of people that are very loyal to President Obama, and regardless of how much he says, I need you because justice is on the ballot and my career, my legacy is on the ballot. You can say as much as you want. That love, that passion, that feel of this is my best friend. You know, you can have one best friend today. The guy can just assign you a new best friend tomorrow. So I think it's important to note that the African American community did not share that loyalty, and it wasn't transferable simply because she was a Democrat. And we got to keep that in mind. I mean, to think that the African American community is just going to do as they're told because President Obama said so, it's not exactly how it works. And we saw that last night.
It isn't. And here's where we need to get smarter, because, you know, I appreciate loyal and affection, and I like you. You may be my best friend, but you may not be what's good for me. To this point, when, you know, in my mind, the difference between the Republican Party in our general sphere, Republican Party does not like big government. So what do they talk about? The big entitlement programs. Who are disproportionately affected by any loss of entitlement programs? So for me, I may like you, but at the end of the day, President Obama, I voted for every kind of Democrat ever since for those reasons alone. The Supreme Court You know, the Supreme Court, which is, you know, you elect governors and congressmen and presidents, but these are lifetime appointments. Donald Trump and the Republicans will have the opportunity to appoint the most restrictive and conservative folks who may undo Roe v. Wade, who may do away with entitlement, or the Congress will do away with entitlements. So it is party. I appreciate affection, but I'm bottom line, what is it in the best interest of me and African Americans? And I'm not going to say maybe it's another party, but it's you vote each time. I may have to hold my nose, but it's going to be ultimately in my interest, the interest of me and my family and collectively the community.
Roy, obviously Democrats go home and they have to do some re-strategizing.
They cry.
Huh?
They cry.
Of course they cry, yeah. Now after you wipe the tears away and after you get back from wiping your tears away, you got to get back to the desk and think about an election 4 years from now. And
2 years, midterm.
Well, yeah, midterm elections, true.
Where
but
we
then
slept in 210, yeah.
Then you have the presidential election. This really is going to do the major shaping too. What do you do? What do you say? How do you change that?
Well, I think you have to refinesse the GOTV operation, getting out the vote, and clearly she failed. The Democrats failed this time with getting people out in those key states. Now, how you do that much better? You know, someone was saying that there were dead people that they were knocking on doors. Well, certainly you don't want to do that again. But you know, I think ultimately you got to have a clear message. Hillary Clinton failed from having a clear message to get out there and resonate. I don't like this idea of surrogates going out there and making the case for me. Hillary Clinton had to make the case that when it came to the African American vote, it's just not okay to send Michelle and Barack Obama out there. She needed to have a clear, defined message that resonated with them, and she just didn't have that.
And she failed in Detroit, is what everybody says. And that was a city that really, you know, given right there next to Flint, Michigan, people thought that this would be a highly Democratic, high turnout. But in the end, that failed. You look at Pennsylvania, those numbers failed. You look at Florida, those numbers failed. You look at the Rust Belt and the Rust Belt, which many people thought was a long shot. Actually, you know, you come through and you make.
That goes to the point of interest.
Right.
Donald Trump
Newsflash. Look, Donald Trump never once talked about reforming entitlements. That's why so many of us Republicans were like, are you really one of us? He wouldn't touch it. As a matter of fact, to your point, Joyce, he said, leave entitlements alone. I don't want anyone to die in the streets. Another thing is this, as far as midterm elections, I'm going to tell you this, Republicans are going to win even more seats because there are more Democratic U.S. Senate seats that are going to be up for grabs. And the way that midterm elections always work, it's always going to be the Republicans picking up more seats during the midterm elections because there's less turnout. And that's the reality. That's what you should be expecting in the next 2 years. Well, a much more Republican Senate, House, and a stronger President Trump.
Whereas this was a surprise and it defied convention, I assure you 2018 will do the same and the opposite, the flip.
Well, let me ask you this question too. On the local front, what does this do for us locally? I mean, when you talk about locally, you've got the Republicans who run the House, the Senate, and now a Republican president. What are we going to see across in cities across America?
Well, New York State, we picked up two state Senate seats in the GOP caucus, expanding our majorities there in Albany. We retained our assembly seats. And I mean, as far as the Bronx is heavily Democratic. You're not going to see any changes. Yeah. But as far as the state, those places in Nassau County, they came overwhelmingly out for Trump, and we actually picked up 2 Senate seats. So that was a big deal for the Republican Party. I thought it was going to work the opposite. It actually worked in favor of the Republican Party to have Trump at the top of the ticket in some parts. And we also picked up a Senate seat out in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about going forward, what do we see? What do we anticipate? Mark?
No, as I said before, I'm very hopeful that going forward will pave a way for unity, the polarization to be diminished. Yeah. There was a very good article in the Wall Street Journal about our neighbors when we are very fired up before the election, but then when the election occurs, we're all united again. We go back to our usual business. So hopefully America can go back now to building a better society, all working together and not being as polarized. It's the immediate results of what I'm hearing is not so optimistic because people are still upset. But hopefully after this settles down, looking to the future, hopefully a united future for America, because it's very important. We have a lot of problems to solve domestically, and also the world is very turbulent. We also have to get together and deal with those issues, and we're not going to be able to do that if we kind of rehash and relitigate and reanalyze all of our upsets about the election. There's nothing wrong to analyze it, but we have to move on, move forward, get going to do better things. And I think that will be a great America, and I hope so.
All right, got to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and get our final comments from our panel. We'll get that in just a few seconds when we return live on this edition of Perspectives.
If you want to stay in the know about the latest happenings in Español, check out Diálogo Abierto, BronxNet's own Spanish show, Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 67. The latest in news, arts, culture, politics, and what's going on in your neighborhood. Diálogo Abierto, the best way to stay connected in Spanish. See you there. Te esperamos.
Hey, look, it's those guys.
What's good? What's up? What's happening today? Let's do those pearly whites, man. Yeah! The boys, check it out. Stand up, do my challenge, go compare us.
Ooh, cute.
Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
Hey girl, what's up? What's the name? What's good? What's up?
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Sir, go and step out of the vehicle for me.
Yes, sir. See ya, buddy. Today, Sean's got a hearing. We'll see how it goes. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
And welcome back. We are live here on BronxNet Television, recapping yesterday's presidential election. Our esteemed panel joining us: Roy Paul, Joyce Johnson, Mark Myris, and J.C. Polanco. And we've got a few more minutes left. And as we heard, Hillary Clinton made her concession speech just a short time ago. A couple of things that she said that we want to lift up. She said that in regards to President Trump, that we're going to have to learn how to keep an open mind, and also making reference to the possibility of her being the first woman president. She said also keep an open mind there about breaking the glass ceiling, and there still is hope for the little girls out there who are watching, that they still can do this. Obviously, for her, it almost sounds like a swan song, like she is really going to be fading off the scene. Agree,
Well, I think
disagree?
it's clear that her political future is probably over. I don't think she's going to run a third time, and I don't know what else she could do. I mean, I don't think Trump is going to appoint her to anything. So she's probably going to fade, but I'm sure she will still continue to speak out against women's rights and issues that are important to her, as she should.
Where does she go from here, Joyce?
I think she takes a little bit of time. You know, what I'm absorbing or trying to is how I would feel, how I'm feeling in her position. I've been there myself, and so I don't count her out for anything. I don't count her out for anything. She could come back to New York and perhaps be governor of New York. I'm just saying. I don't think she's a young woman, and a brilliant woman, and has a lot to offer in public service, either elected or otherwise. So I think she will do tremendous work, continue to do the tremendous work that she's done in the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing that she should do is to be a supporter of unity going forward. That would be, should be a voice for unity. Notwithstanding that the election was lost, the bigger picture is uniting America and avoiding this polarization that we've been seeing. And the other point is, again, I just wanted to put it about the media. I think the media, just this is not right on your point, needs to do a real evaluation of what they're doing and their function, which is not communicating to the public and not giving information to the public. I'm not talking about BronxNet. I mean, other than BronxNet. What they do, it's all partisan, it's one-sided, and it really is not informative. And I think that they did a great disservice to the American public by not bringing the election and the issues in the election in a more informative fashion. And I think a lot of people...
I guess I have to ask the question, what issues could you bring, given the fact of what you saw?
I'm talking about the partisanship in the different networks. You have one network is for Republicans, one network is for... And newspapers. As a newspaper, I won't mention the name. Before the election, they had a headline that said, "In God we trust, and we are waiting for the decision." As soon as the election went to Trump, the picture of the White House, and it says House of Horrors. I don't consider that to be informative. I consider that to be divisive, in the sense that we're all Americans, and the
It's
people
fueling,
have
that's
voted,
true.
and the
Right.
voting is over, and the system occurred. Whatever it was, it was. So the answer should have been, it should have been yes. Let's move forward.
And leave
Instead,
it like
a
that.
picture of the White
I
House with
agree.
House of Horrors.
I
mean,
agree.
it really bothered me. But the shift was amazing. I went through the pages. The first pages before the election were, oh, well, wonderful, it's going to be, and then it's a horror show. Yeah, that's not information.
That's right.
Come on,
You're
I don't think
absolutely
so.
It's funny to hear. It looks like my fellow analysts here and fellow professor, they want a state-sanctioned press of some kind where, oh, you're going to get some BBC type of information that is not going to be colored in any way, somehow in somebody's mind, not biased. Look, we have First Amendment rights, we have freedom of the press here, and the reality is that we have a society where people make money from delivering the press, and there are going to be segments of society that appreciate stories being told one way over another. That's the fact. You're going to have the New York Times and you're going to have the New York Post. Welcome to the United States of America. That's a good thing. The problem is this, and I think too many people are attacking the media, and it's unfair, I think, because we have a candidate in Donald Trump that said bombastic things, and he knew what he was doing. I know he did. That was going to get 24/7 coverage in the television. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the things that he said, he knew for a fact that there was going to be a delivery of ratings. So we have a society that needs commercial space sold, that needs print ads bought, internet links purchased, and so this is going to be the reality forever. So we can't blame the media for this. As far as what I think Hillary should do, I really think she should focus on AIDS and how to cure HIV. I know New York has a big program going on right now. She was senator in New York, where they want to get rid of HIV by 2020. Why not come here and be like the person that's going to raise money for this stuff and go around the world and become like the person that is going to do everything, but the one person that the world can look to that's going to do everything possible to raise enough funds to defeat HIV once and for all. Sort of like what Jimmy Carter did about civil rights and human rights and elections around the world. She could do that for HIV/AIDS. I think she should.
Where do we see things happening for Donald Trump? Obviously, he's in control right now. He's got full run of the House. He's got full run of the Senate and the White House. What can we expect coming in the short time to come?
Well, I hope that the reality of the presidency really hits him in the head. Because, for example, if he does repeal Obamacare, there are 20 million people who have been helped. There are drastic diseases that have been helped and sustained because of Obamacare. People who didn't have access to health care now do. And you take that away, you have a lot of people who go back to where they were, and a lot of them having been treated, now not getting the treatment they need, they suffer more because they don't have it. So I really hope that he really looks at the presidency from a more humane perspective.
And George, you have 30 seconds.
Unlike JC, I don't think there's going to be a kumbaya between Donald Trump and his Republican House and Senate. I just do not believe it. There was animosities for some of the best. There were so many of the Republican establishment that endorsed Hillary Clinton, and so the three branches of government, and to the genius of the constitutionalists who put it together, it will not be kumbaya.
Can I make one quick prediction before we leave?
10 seconds.
I think Ted Cruz gets a nomination to the Supreme Court, and he gets rid of a potential contracant moving forward. I think he gets a nomination.
Pretty interesting stuff. Of course, we want to thank all of our guests for sharing with us in this very special hour-long edition of Perspectives, where we brought you live follow-up in regards to the election. We'll continue to bring you up to speed and give you more information. We ask that you stay tuned to Open on BronxNet Television, as well as Perspectives, where we'll bring you all the news heading towards the inauguration and the transition, and of course, all the local news here in our borough and our state. That's Darren Jaime. Thank you for joining us, and of course, thank you to our guests. We'll see you soon.
Any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, because it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective? Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective. What's your perspective? Let them know.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow.
My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.